Stage Red, the world of power, passion, and survival. Stage Red bursts onto the spiral like a thunderclap. It's the fire after the tribe, the hunger after the rules. It doesn't wait for permission, it takes what it wants. Where purple was the warm blanket of belonging, red is the spear that breaks from the circle and says, I'll make it my own way. This is the stage where ego is born, where the self awakens from the group trance and declares, I am here and I matter. Red is not polite. It doesn't care about your systems, your plans, or your authority. It is raw, emotional, impulsive, and alive. It doesn't ask, is this right? It asks, can I get away with it? You'll see red in the rebellious teenager, in the defiant startup founder who throws out the rule book, in the warlord who demands loyalty at gunpoint, in the viral influencer who trades integrity for influence. It is the wild stage, the untamed flame, the birth of will, pride, and self-determination. But underneath all the bravado, red is also scared. It's fighting for survival in a world that feels unfair. It trusts no one because trust makes you vulnerable. So it protects itself through force, status, and dominance. In this chapter, we'll explore the rise of red in culture, business, coaching, and personal development. We'll see how to work with it, when to challenge it, and when to let it burn itself out. Because red isn't bad, it's essential. It just can't run the show forever. Let's discuss the core values of red. To understand stage red, you need to feel it in your gut. This stage doesn't think in frameworks, it moves on impulse, instinct, and intensity. Here are the core values that drive red. Power. Red respects power, not credentials. The strongest wins. Freedom. It refuses to be controlled. It breaks rules rather than follows them. Pride. Status matters. Reputation is currency. Ego is armor. Revenge. If you cross red, expect retaliation. It remembers, slights, and responds in kind. Loyalty, not to institutions, but to people, to crews, to blood. You ride with me or you're in the way. Courage. Red acts even when afraid, especially when afraid. There is no slow build in red. There's no 5-year plan, no strategic patience. Red moves now. It fights now. It demands now. It doesn't ask if it's allowed, it just does. And if it works, it keeps doing it. If it doesn't, it changes the game until it wins. Red lives in a sum-zero world where someone has to lose for you to win. It sees kindness as weakness and rules as shackles. And while that might sound harsh from the outside to red, it feels like the only way to survive in a brutal world that never gave it a chance. This is why coaching red can't rely on logic alone. You have to meet its heart with grounded presence. You don't tame red by outpowering it. You guide it by giving it a better fight, one that's worth showing up for. How red develops in the individual. Stage red doesn't emerge gently, it erupts. Red is born when purple tribal safety no longer feels safe. When the rituals, elders, and invisible spirits can't protect you from real world danger or domination. Where purple seeks protection in tradition and kingship, red rises when the child or teen discovers they have to protect themselves. It's not, I belong, therefore I'm safe. It's, I fight, therefore I survive. This transition often comes from rapture, trauma, betrayal, or sudden exposure to power imbalances that the old myths can't explain. You'll often see red emerge in a child growing up in a home where unpredictability reigns, learning to get loud to be heard. A teenager rejecting family norms and craving their own identity in defiance. A young adult breaking away from cultural expectations and saying, no one's going to save me, I'm going to do it myself. A leader who's being burned by institutions and decides to play by their own rules from now on. In red, the world is not benevolent, it's a battlefield. This is the developmental moment when the individual first steps into self-authority, not from wisdom, but from raw necessity. They discover their will, their fire, their refusal. And from that place, something powerful begins to grow. Voice. Even if it's loud and reckless. Agency. Even if it's impulsive. Drive. Even if it's blind. Red is a survival pattern that says, I don't care what the system says, I'm going to live my life on my terms, and if that makes me a problem, good. The danger? Without integration, Red can stay locked in a cycle of reaction, always rebelling, always fighting shadows. But if we meet Red with respect, not resistance, we give it a path forward. Red is not the enemy. It's the part of us that kept going when no one else showed up. And that deserves to be seen. The language of stage Red. If purple speaks in myths and community, Red speaks in declaration and defiance. Its language is loud, direct, and emotionally charged. It doesn't ask, it demands. It doesn't explain, it exerts. Red language carries force. It pulses with confidence, challenge, and charisma. It erupts, it boasts, it intimidates, not to impress, to dominate. Red responds powerfully to words like, take what's yours, be fearless, no one's coming to save you, step up or step aside, prove them wrong. You're either a lion or a sheep. This is the language of war, conquest, and independence. It cuts through fluff and posturing. Red doesn't want your philosophy, it wants to win. In marketing or leadership, Red language often shows up in crush the competition, dominate your industry, be the alpha in your niche. You were born to be more, take it. It's no accident that so many sales pages and self-help books lean Red. It works, especially in environments where people feel disempowered or overlooked. And here is a careful distinction. While Red loves boldness, it hates weakness. If you fumble, doubt yourself, or speak too passively, Red tunes out. It sees that as prey energy. To speak Red, be clear, not complex. Be direct, not diplomatic. Be certain, not tentative. Speak to their fire, not their fear. And if you're coaching someone in Red, don't be soft. Challenge them, match their strength, match their energy, and then lead it. This is how you gain Red's respect. Red in society. Red doesn't build society, it tests it, it shakes it, it pushes against the edges to see where it breaks. Where purple binds the tribe together, Red begins to differentiate the self. It separates from the collective. It becomes a force. And because of this, Red shows up during every major shift in power across history. You'll find stage Red in rebellions and revolutions when the oppressed say no more. Wartime leaders where charisma and dominance matter more than process. Street culture and gang dynamics where power determines survival. Celebrity culture where confidence and image can replace merit. Startup founders and empire builders who move fast and break things. Red is raw leadership energy, not ethical leadership, charismatic leadership. It's the general on the battlefield, the rebel with the vision, the CEO who doesn't care what the board thinks. It thrives in environments where systems have failed, rules are negotiable, speed matters more than stability. Being respected matters more than being liked. And while it's easy to view Red as dangerous or unethical, especially through a blue or a green's lens, Red has a role. It's the energy that starts things. It initiates momentum. It says the thing no one else will say. It acts when others will overthink. Red changes the game by refusing to follow it, but it also pays the price because Red can rise fast, but crash just as fast. Without structure, allies, or stability, the empire eventually burns. That's where blue begins to step in. The gifts of Red. It's easy to fear Red. It's loud, unapologetic, unpredictable, but beneath the vitality lies a powerful set of gifts that are essential for personal and collective evolution. Red gives us willpower. Red doesn't wait for permission, it acts. It doesn't need a committee, consensus, or clarity, it moves. In a world that often overthinks, Red reminds us that decisive energy is transformative. Courage. Red confronts fear head on. It walks into danger, whether that's physical, emotional, or reputational. This kind of bravery is not calculated, it's instinctual. And sometimes it's the only thing that will break through a stuck system. Personal power. Red helps us reclaim what we gave away. Our voice, our boundaries, our sense of I matter. Without Red, we stay polite, passive, and palatable. With Red, we remember that we have a spine. Number 4, boundary setting. Red is not afraid to say no. Not with a smile, not with a justification, just no. It draws a line and dares you to cross it. For many, especially those conditioned in blue or green environments, this is radical healing. Number 5, leadership energy. Red leads even when it's not qualified, even when it doesn't have all the answers. This initiatory force is crucial in times of crisis, transition, or breakthrough. Red teaches us to take up space, to claim our desires, to stop apologizing for existing. And while the stage has its shadows, yes, we'll explore those in a moment, it also provides the raw material that all greatness is built on. Drive, passion, conviction, audacity. Red doesn't ask, am I ready? It says, let's go. The shadows of red. If the gifts of red are raw power, the shadows of red are what happens when that power goes unchecked. Red without reflection, without empathy, without consequences becomes destructive. What the red shadows look like. Number 1, aggression as default. Red often believes that force equals respect. So when it feels challenged, disrespected, or unseen, it strikes. It doesn't pause, it doesn't consider impact, it reacts. In relationships, this shows up as verbal attacks, intimidation, and volatility. In leadership, it becomes domination. Number 2, narcissism. Red is self-absorbed by design. It's building ego structure. So naturally it says the world revolves around me. But when this is not integrated, red can't take feedback. It refuses to be wrong. Everything becomes a threat to the self-image. It's fragile, but masks itself as power. Number 3, disregard for others. Red doesn't feel empathy the way green or even blue does. It's not wired for how does that make you feel. So when unregulated, red steamrolls. It manipulates. It uses people as pawns to get what it wants. This is where we get toxic bosses, abusive partners, and political tyrants. Number 4, impulse addiction. Without the blue structure that comes later, red is pure desire on repeat. Sex, power, money, thrill, and the need for more. It's insatiable. And in modern society, this can spiral into addiction, financial ruin, or collapse. Number 5, fear-based control. At its core, red is afraid. Afraid of being weak, afraid of being dominated. So it controls. It controls conversations, controls people, controls perception. But the more it grasps, the more unstable it becomes. A coach's warning: many coaches romanticize red energy. They praise it as confidence or alpha energy. But unintegrated red is not leadership. It is a tantrum in a power suit. If you're not careful, you'll mistake trauma responses for ambition, and you'll end up amplifying dysfunction instead of healing it. Red must be met, not matched. Challenged, but not shamed. Guided, not controlled. Because only then can it grow and become something more. Red in society and business. Red isn't just personal. It shapes nations, movements, and markets. While often hidden under more civilized layers, red energy drives some of the world's boldest innovation and its most ruthless behavior. Red in society. You'll find stage red at the heart of authoritarian regimes where control is maintained through fear and force. Gang culture and street hierarchies where status is earned by dominance and reputation. Cult leaders and radical movements where charisma overrides logic. Celebrity and influencer culture where fame, status, and shock value are currency. Red loves spectacle. It commands attention. Whether it's a viral rant or a political strongman posing to crush the opposition, it's red. And red often rises in societies where blue systems have collapsed. Trust in authority is low. People feel unseen or powerless. In these vacuums, red takes the mic. Red in business. You'll see red energy in cutthroat sale culture. Crush your quota or you're out. Toxic hustle, bro marketing. No excuses, dominate your industry, be a savage. Charismatic founder syndrome, where the business is run by one person's ego. Predatory marketing, exploiting pain points with zero integrity. Red can build empires fast. It takes risks, it gnaws limits, and pushes through resistance. But it can also burn out teams, destroy trust, and create reputational implosions. When red works in business, red has its place, especially in early startup stages or disruptive markets. Use it when you need to break through noise, you're creating a category-defining moment, you're facing resistance and need raw courage, but it must be balanced. Red energy without integration becomes a liability. With integration, it becomes fuel. Red doesn't always wear red. Sometimes it wears designer brands. Sometimes it's on stage, hyping up a crowd. Sometimes it's on Zoom, leading a team with pure force of will. But underneath, you'll hear it in the tone, you'll see it in the posture, you'll feel it in the room. It's visceral, it's thrilling, it's dangerous. Red's relationship with others stages. Let's decode how red sees and clashes with the rest of the spiral. Red doesn't exist in a vacuum. It sees other spiral stages through a competitive and often suspicious lens. Let's together break it down. Red's view of stage beige. Too weak to survive. Red sees beige as vulnerable, helpless, and irrelevant unless protected. It has no respect for those who can't fight or fend for themselves. If you're not strong enough to stay alive, you're not strong enough to matter. Red's view of stage purple. Too tribal, too passive. Red sees purple's reliance on group, spirits, and traditions as childish. It has outgrown the need for superstition. Red is the power now. You don't need rituals, you need guts. Red's view of stage blue. Too controlling, too slow. Red resents blue's rules. It sees law and order as tools of the weak. Red breaks rules to get results. Blue enforces rules to feel safe. I don't need your permission, I'll take what's mine. But here's the paradox. Red also fears blue's punishment systems, law, religion, and consequences. So red often behaves until it sees a loophole or a weakness. Red's view of stage orange. Game recognizes game. Red and orange share ambition, however, they clash on methods. Red wants power now. Orange plays the long game. Red might admire orange's success, but scoffs at its diplomacy. You talk too much, I move fast. Red's view of stage green. Weak. This is where red gets agitated. It sees green's compassion as softness, a refusal to do what's necessary. While you're talking about feelings, I'm building an army. To red, vulnerability is weakness, and consensus? What a waste of time. Red's view of stage yellow. Unclear, slippery, annoying. Red can't quite figure yellow out. It senses yellow has a power, but doesn't understand how it works. Red tries to push yellow, and yellow doesn't resist. It redirects. To red, yellow feels both wise and infuriating. What are you even saying? Speak straight or fight. Red is both feared and needed. In every stage, red is lurking beneath the surface in personal ambition, suppressed anger, or raw drive. Other stages may judge red, but when survival is on the line, everyone wants red in their side. The red breakdown and what comes after this is where transformation begins. Red can roar for years, but eventually it hits a wall. Not because its power runs out, but because its consequences catch up. What breaks red? Isolation. Red burns bridges. The more it dominates, the more alone it becomes. Betrayal. In a world of alliances built on fear or gain, loyalty is thin. Red often finds its inner circle was never real. Loss of control. Chaos becomes unmanageable, rivals rise, systems emerge, red's brute force becomes outdated. Exhaustion. You can't fight forever. Eventually the adrenaline runs dry. The crisis moment. This is the pivot, the inner collapse. Red realizes, not everyone fears me anymore. I can't control everything. I'm tired of fighting. This is where the cracks form and blue sneaks in. The invitation of stage blue. When red breaks down, blue offers a lifeline. Rules instead of chaos, meaning instead of might, belonging instead of isolation. It's not an easy transition. Red sees blue as weakness until it realizes submission can be strength. To move forward, red must surrender its throne and kneel to something greater than itself. And that might be a cause, a code, a community, a belief system, or a leader who inspires honor, not fear. Now, red doesn't disappear, it integrates. The healthy adult still holds red inside. The fire to act, the drive to protect, the courage to face danger. But that red is now guided by higher values, not ruled by its own rage. This is the beginning of mature power. and it only comes when red chooses growth over control. Coaching and leading stage red. If you're working with someone in stage red, forget polished PowerPoint and 10-step frameworks, they won't be impressed. Red doesn't follow expertise, it follows power. What red responds to? Strength. Red respects people who don't flinch. If you cower, over-explain, or apologize too much, you've already lost them. Directness. Say what you mean, no fluff, no sugarcoating, get to the point. Results. Red wants wins. Talk about outcomes, victories, and real-world impact, not theories or feelings. Loyalty. If red senses you're on their side, they'll open up. If they suspect you're trying to change them, they'll resist. What not to do. Don't moralize. Red doesn't care what's right, it cares what works. Don't shame. Red has been shamed its whole life. More shame won't spark change. Don't try to heal them. That feels weak. Instead, call them to lead, step up, and channel their fire. Coaching language that works. Try phrases like, I can tell you've got the fire. Let's point this somewhere where it matters. You don't back down. That's rare. Let's use this. You've been the wolf. It's time for you to become the lion. What would it look like if your power protected people instead of pushing them away? Red wants to be seen, not fixed. When they feel respected, they'll listen, and when they feel challenged, they'll rise. Your role as a leader when leading red. Be the alpha without aggression. Be firm without domination. Be clear without control. Hold your ground. Speak with conviction. Set boundaries without apology. When red meets someone who doesn't flinch, they finally feel safe enough to evolve. Integrating red, the fuel of forward motivation. Stage red is often misunderstood, even villainized. But when we strip away the judgment and look deeper, we see something sacred. Red is the raw life force, the instinct to survive, the urge to create, the refusal to quit. It's the drumbeat beneath every bold move, every revolutionary act, every time someone says, enough, I'll do it myself. Red when integrated. When red is balanced and matured, it becomes courage, the willingness to step into the unknown. Initiative, the drive to start what others only dream of. Leadership, the ability to stand tall when others follow the crowd. Voice, the unapologetic self-expression that sparks movements. Red doesn't whisper, it roars. And when integrated into a mature psyche, that roar becomes a call to rise. Why red still matters. In a world numbed by politeness and people being afraid of confrontation, red reminds us of something primal. You were born with power. You don't need to earn it. You don't need to wait for permission. You just need to own it consciously. We don't evolve by suppressing red. We evolve by harnessing it. Because underneath the chaos and ego, red is trying to do one thing: protect you. It's trying to protect your freedom, protect your pride, protect your place in a world that feels dangerous and unfair. But red isn't meant to be your prison. It is meant to be your ignition. So the question isn't, how do I get rid of my red? It's, how can I use it to build, lead, and live with unstoppable integrity? And when that moment clicks, you stop being ruled by red and you start ruling with it.